In this video I'm going to do a review of Adobe Fresco. Welcome to Steve Draws. I'm Steve, a Dutch illustrator and animator. And in this video I'm going to do a review of Adobe Fresco. They've been working on it for a very long time, and it's kind of a mix between a vector app and a pixel app. And I think they combined Adobe Draw and Adobe Photoshop Sketch and made Adobe Fresco with a lot of new features. So let's get into the app. When you open up Adobe Fresco, you first start at the home page. Here you can see all the artworks you've already made in Adobe Fresco. And you can also make a new canvas by just tapping on custom canvas here, or just tap on create new. And then you get some options to create a new canvas. First, going to choose A4 because there are default sizes. You also have saved sizes, and this is a canvas I saved. Digital are all the digital default sizes you have, and for print you have letter, small postcard, large postcard, comic book A4, tabloid, poster A3 and A2. But I'm just going to choose A4 size just to start out with. Now you're in the canvas, and here you can draw. And what's so special about this app is that it's a combination of two apps. Adobe Draw, which is a vector app, and Adobe Photoshop Sketch, which is a pixel app. And you have different kind of brushes. Here you have the pixel brushes you can choose from, and there's just a lot of default brushes. Here you have the live brushes, and those are watercolors and oils, and there you can paint with wet paint. But I'm gonna go over the live brushes in a minute. And then you have the vector brushes. And these are the same brushes, almost the same as Adobe Draw. And when you choose a vector brush, something happens in the layers panel, because here are all the layers. So if you choose to draw with vectors, you'll see it in this little icon that it is a vector layer. And you can really zoom in and you can see that it is a vector. When you choose a pixel brush, it will create, I'm just gonna choose hard round opacity. And when you draw with that, you see that a new layer is created. And this is an icon for a pixel layer. When you choose the live brushes, it doesn't create a new layer because you're on a pixel layer, but just I'm gonna select the vector layer and then choose a watercolor brush. And what you can see now is that it creates it on the pixel layer. So the vector layers are always separate. And here you can already see what the live brushes are doing. I'm just gonna choose a different color, maybe red. And these brushes were also available in Adobe Photoshop Sketch, but they enhanced it a little bit. Because now you have a menu for these live brushes, and you can change the opacity of the colors, and every color you choose in Adobe Fresco. So I'm just going to choose another color and I'm going to paint with it. It will create a new swatch, and even with the opacity. So if you choose a different opacity, it will also store it in the swatches. And here you can choose the size you want to paint with. And the flow of your brush. And this is just for the watercolors. The Normal brushes have a lot more different settings you can change. And here is the water flow. So that's very important if you're doing watercolors. Now it's set to 100%, and you can go to 0%. And when you then paint with it and choose another color, it doesn't blend that much. What you also can do when you're working with the live brushes, with the watercolors, is dry the canvas. And there's just 3 little dots here, and then you have to choose dry layer, and then the layer is dried, and then you can work on top of it. Just going to show you a piece I was working on, and this is Cubby the Lion, one of my characters, and this is different canvas. So when you look at the swatches, these are all the swatches I chose for this painting. So when you're working on a painting, you know, all the swatches are saved automatically, which is great. Just gonna return to this document. You cannot clear a layer. What you can do is tap on the layer, and then you get some actions, and I'm just gonna delete this one and also delete this layer. Just gonna go to the pixel brushes, and it works a little bit different than Procreate. Here you have all the different brush sets, and within the brush set you have the different brushes you can work with. So you have the basic brushes, comics brushes, dry media, FX, ink, lettering, marker, painting, rakes, and sketching. When you have Adobe Creative Cloud, you can also, and that's the big advantage of Adobe Fresco, is that you can download .abr brushes and .tpl brushes. And then you have to scroll down, and here you can see a lot of brushes I have of Kyle T. Webster, and Kyle T. Webster makes the best brushes for Photoshop. You can use the same brushes Kyle has created, and they will download from the cloud, because Adobe Fresco is a cloud-based app. So everything you make in Adobe Fresco will be saved to Adobe Creative Cloud. So here's just a lot of different brushes, and here you can, you know, change the properties of your brush. So if you want to paint behind, you can choose behind, so it paints behind. Unfortunately, you cannot save these settings. You can just adjust this brush, and if you want to go back, you can, you know, tap on this button, and then it will reset the brush to the original settings. You can change the shape, the size jitter, the pen pressure, pen tilt, fade, or just set it to none. The angle of the jitter. There are some other controls with pen pressure. You can flip the X jitter or to flip the Y jitter. I'm just gonna go over the rest of the features. There's a little circle here, and when you press on that, it will, your pencil will change into an eraser with the brush you're working with. So now I can erase with the same brush I'm painting with, which is great, and that's a great shortcut. You also have the eraser, but that's a different eraser. That's a very hard eraser, and you can change the size and also the opacity or the flow of your eraser. Then you have the transform tool, and with the transform tool you can rotate it, and this looks very similar to Procreate, but you can also rotate it with your fingers and, you know, change the size. When you use these handles, it will transform evenly, and when you use these handles you can, squeeze it a little. Then press on done, and then your selection is done. Just gonna paint something so that I can show the lasso tool. And there's 4 different options. So you have a lasso tool, a paint really lasso tool, a square, and a circle. So you can, this is the lasso, and underneath you get a new menu for cancel the lasso or close the lasso. And then you can use the transform tool and transform a part of your image, and press on done, and then you have to deselect it, otherwise the selection will stay in place. That's handy when you're working on separate layers and just want to fill in a shape. And there's also you can also load the last selection, so when you press on that you can still work on your selection. And with the circle, you can just add selections to it. And there's also a menu which is similar to Adobe Photoshop Sketch. You can use transform, choose erase, mask the selection, or deselect it. Then you have a paint bucket. So when you press on the canvas, it will fill the entire space. When you have made a selection, you can make that selection. Here's the color selection. I'm just going to undo, and the undos and redos are the same as in Procreate. So they really paid close attention to what Procreate is doing. So you can also select a color when you just press with your finger on the screen. When you have selected a brush, and I'm just gonna select some different colors. So if you want to select a color, you just can select it with your finger, and then it reacts as a color picker. Underneath the eyedropper, there is a button to open up your camera roll, your files, or go straight to Creative Cloud where you have stored all of your images. Other great thing about Adobe Fresco is the screen estate, because you can press on this button and then everything, all the menus disappear, and you're just left with the essentials. Here you can change the opacity of your layer and also the different blend modes. If you want to hide this layer, you just have to press on the eye, and then it's hidden from view. Here you can select a new layer, and here are all the options for the layer actions. And you can add a layer, hide a layer, delete the layer, paste, mask, duplicate layer, copy layer, cut layer, merge down, create empty mask, mask layer contents, and convert to pixel layer. So if you're working on or if you have made some art in vectors, you can convert it to a pixel layer, and you can also lock it. I'm just going to show you a painting I did. It was a study of J.C. Leyendecker, and I did that with the live brushes, and I chose the oil set. It's a different way of working, and it approaches real oil brushes, because when you zoom in you can see that it has a bit of a structure, and it looks like your paint is on top of the canvas. And that's the same when you're working with real oils. And I really love this feature in Adobe Fresco. I think it's one of the best, and it comes close to, painting with real oil paint. When you go back to the home page, you have also different options here. You can tap on Learn, and they have a lot of tutorials on how to use Adobe Fresco. They're all movies. There's a gallery, and this is a gallery of people who have worked in Adobe Fresco already and just saved it to Behance, and that's a community of Adobe Creative Cloud. Here you have all your cloud documents, and you can delete them here or put them in other groups. Here's also what's coming to Fresco, because they're still working on the app. And what's coming is perspective drawing, symmetry drawing, clipping masks, shapes and lines, color themes and palettes. And I really like the color themes, so you can work with different color themes to create some pieces of art. And if you want some new features, you can suggest a feature. So when you press on this, you can send it to Adobe, and maybe they will work on it. Overall, Adobe Fresco is a great drawing app, and it's now only available for the iPad, and they will make it available for Android as well. Just gonna name the pros and the cons. First, starting out with the pros. If you have an Adobe Creative Cloud membership, the app will be for free. When you create a new canvas and paint, all of the colors you choose will be saved to a swatch palette, even with the transparency. When you have Adobe Creative Cloud, you can use all the Quality Webster brushes and use ABR and TPL brushes. You can create watercolors and oil painting with the live brushes to get an analog feel to your paintings. You can save your work in Creative Cloud and open them on your Adobe desktop apps. The app has vector and pixel art in one app. The cons? The biggest con is the price. You can sign up for a free trial, but after 6 months the app will cost $9.99 a month. You cannot create your own brushes and save them in the app. There are no shape tools yet to draw with, no perspective grids, and limited transform capabilities. If you already work with Adobe Fresco, please let me know in the comments what you think of it and what your favorite feature is. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like it, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, because each time I upload a new video, you get a notification. Drawing is fun, and practice makes perfect. See you next time. Doodles!